I mean, seriously.
Look at that.
Look, let's get him into the light a little bit more.
Wow.
If anyone ever looks red carpet ready.
I know, I'm usually on the opposite side of the red carpet, so that's a little bit of a novelty for me.
Look at you.
How are you guys this morning?
Good. Very good. Sebastien Centner joins us again, the director of Eatertainment, Special Events and Catering. This must be is this the craziest time of the year for you?
It can be. It can be. It's funny, we usually find out about 2 to 3 days into festival. Everything's so last minute this time of year that it's sort of everything seems to be, if it's too calm in the beginning, you're like, wait a second, something's going to happen. So no, it's actually, but it'll be crazy busy, but it'll be a fun busy.
Yeah, well, how can it not be, right? I know it's your job, but it's so glamorous and so exciting, and you never know what's coming around the corner. So tonight, the big film fest opening film is Looper.
Yep.
With Bruce Willis, and it takes place in Kansas City and Shanghai. So you've created a party theme around that? We have. I mean, what's really fun about Film Festival is that because there's so many different films and so many different themes, that it's the perfect opportunity to do something themed in terms of the parties around it. And whether or not, there's only really 2 times a year you can really do something fun like this, and that's Oscars and Film Festival. So what we did here was for Looper, which is set in the future and it has sort of that Shanghai, Kansas City twist, one way to do that, exactly something we had to sit down. It wasn't like, okay, no problem, let's pull that out of our repertoire. So what we did was we actually took Kansas City barbecue and sort of added a bit of an Asian flair. And what's fun about this is that throughout the whole festival, for all the different films that are going on, we're going to sort of be throwing out their ideas of party ideas, so people at home as well can, when these movies come out either on video or they see them at the theaters, etc., they can throw their own little parties with all these same sort of theme-infused kind of foods and drinks.
And you'd have to explain this to some people.
Well, you know what's interesting is that you can sit around for hours thinking of a theme and thinking of how to infuse it into, you know, whether it's the drinks or the decor or anything else. You have to remember that people have a split second to get what it is that, you know, might have taken you hours to do. So it has to be a little bit blatant, or you have to have, in our case, staff that are really, really good at presenting that to the guests.
Romancing it.
Exactly.
So what do we got here?
So we got a few different things. We did, well, this is first of all a rib, but what we did was we did a rib with a little bit of an Asian sauce and sesame seed. All of the dishes here are, again, barbecue. So we did a chicken, which is a single bite on the Asian spoons. We did a 5-spice quail. And then we also did a pork belly. So they're all things that, again, are in that sort of theme of barbecue, but all with a bit of an Asian flair. And then to drink, actually, why don't I pass these out to everybody? Because you know what?
I know, exactly.
You know what?
It's almost 8 a.m.
Yeah, exactly. I mean, who doesn't need a bourbon sour at 10 to 8 in the morning?
It looks a bourbon sour?
Bourbon sour, but...
That's actually one of my favorites.
Really? Excellent. Do you want mine too?
Well, we're starting early.
She's still got an hour left for the show, so maybe not 2.
We can put a shot of espresso in there and it'll be perfect. So what we did in this case is we took the bourbon sour, but to give it that kind of like, you know, a little bit of an Asian Shanghai feel, is we actually added plum syrup to it.
Well, all right.
Taste that.
Let's see what that
Cheers.
plum syrup. Cheers.
Happy
Cheers. Happy
That's
That's delicious.
If I drank that a little bit more, I think nobody will be doing the news.
Yeah.
We'll put in the McCafe cups. Nobody will know. But you know what? In terms of theming the parties, and in terms of you want it to be fun for your guests. So at home, if you're sort of going to do your own sort of party theme around movies, it's a lot of fun to do, but you want to remember 2 things. Number 1 is don't make it too complicated, because then you have to do too much explaining to your guests. If you have to sit there and explain for 5 minutes what you meant, it defeats the purpose. And try and do things that people are actually going to enjoy. So from watching a little bit earlier, I'm assuming that the party with the blanket and the people throwing spoons at you is not something that...
Was not enjoyable.
They were actually whacking you with a spoon.
Whacking you with spoons, which I cannot
like whack-a-mole.
I can't even guess what the theme was for that party.
Well, it was some sort of weird suburban alternate culture thing, I'm sure.
I guess so, but it just like, anyways, usually
Tom Cruise showed up. It was really odd.
Oh, if Tom Cruise is there, hey, if Tom Cruise is whacking you with a spoon while you're under a blanket, that's a whole different thing.
Totally.
Yeah, now it's a trend.
Now, Sebastien, when you throw a little soiree like this, are you within your rights to demand a costume theme of any kind, a little touch?
You know what, you can, but at the same time, you don't want to put too much emphasis on your guests having to do too much work. One thing that we found that really works well is that if you do want to do some sort of a costume theme, is if you're going to add a small element to it. We once did a French maid and Latin lovers party for one of our clients. And
Dave wants an invite to that.
Oh, I've thrown a French party where you had to wear a beret.
Well, there you go. Okay, or you can do that.
The beret's easy. I don't want to have to dress up. I don't want to have to hold.
That's right. You also don't want it to affect your outfit for the evening.
Right.
No,
right?
exactly.
You sort of want to set your outfit. So what you can do, which is fun, is if you actually have a little touch of something to add to people's outfits, whether it's a little top hat for the guys or something for the girls, etc. We did once, you did pocket poofs for everybody, for all the gentlemen as they arrived, that are really colorful for a Moroccan party. something that you can add to your guests as they walk through the door, so they don't have to go in and do all the work.
Sure. That's fun.
Yeah. That's a great idea.
So Sebastien, is it always the food and the drink that does the talking for the party, or any other?
You know what you
is there
can do?
anything
I mean,
else?
there's a lot of different elements that really can set the tone for the party, especially when it's themed. Decor is one of them, and that depends a lot on the venue, whether you're doing it at home, et cetera, et cetera. Decor can get expensive the more stuff you have to sort of bring in. Music is great. Yeah. Music is fantastic, especially when the theme is something like country or whatever else. You can do something that's really bold. Uniforms for your staff or for your guests, for that matter, is another great way. We've done that at a lot of film festival parties where the staff actually come out and they're in the uniform of something to do with the film, which right away sets the tone. And then the food and the beverage, it's really, really important, but again, it's harder to convey. So you sort of have to use that in conjunction with other things to really make the theme work.
But I like that you've done some things that wouldn't have to cost a ton of money. Like if you went down to Spadina, you could be picking up some of these, like the little bamboo tray and the basket and things like that for not a ton of money, and probably the spoons as well.
You know, 100%. It's about, number one, you're absolutely right, trying to find things that are economical. But the other thing that's really important is trying to use things you already have around the house. I mean, there's nothing worse than going out and buying a whole bunch of stuff, using it for a party.
Store it.
You store it and then you end up throwing it out.
Yeah.
So if you can use things, for example, like the silver bowls that we had, those are actually from IKEA, believe it or not. Those are a couple of years old, but we find these really, really cool items, and you think about different ways you can use them. In that case, we actually used that for a napkin fold once, with a napkin rolled up inside of it. The silver trays, the white spoons, the black trays, things of that sort.
Before we have to wrap up, just can you tell us about this beer really quickly?
You know what
it's got a Buddha on it.
Yes, it's called Lucky Beer, Lucky Buddha beer. It is really, really, really fun, and actually it's pretty good too.
That's a great bottle.
You know what? It's a great bottle.
Is the Buddha like carved right into the?
Literally speaking, it is out. It's made out of. It's bottled in China, but what we liked about it was just so different. Yeah. And quite frankly, something like this, it's all about the bottle. If we were to serve this at a party for Looper, it would actually go out in the bottles, because that's so much of the actual theme.
Yeah. Absolutely. Thank you so much, Sebastien Centner, Director, Eatertainment, Special Events and Catering. We will. You too.
Cheers.